Hey guys, how's it going? So we have the Zombie Chronicles stream in a couple of days from now, and I thought I would just kind of list off 10 things that I would like to see in the Zombie Chronicles. Now, some of these are likely, some of these may not be likely, but it's just my own personal this is what I want. So number one, this is most likely to happen, is I want the Ultimus characters, or the original characters. And so with Jason saying he wants to keep the maps authentic, like themselves, I want to see them as the original characters. So it's going to be really interesting. Number two is a personality for the Marines. Now, I don't know if this one's going to happen. They may do a Black Ops situation where the original characters, or Ultimus, are the playable characters on Nacht and Verrucht. I hope they don't, because they just released the timeline, and they had the Marines, it showed the Marines there, and that the Black Ops versions of Nacht and Verrucht, they weren't important enough, or they weren't canon. Doesn't really matter. But if the Marines are playable and they want to keep it true to style, I would like to see some characterization. I know they were silent in Nacht, but I just like to see some characterization with them, and possibly names. If you can have named characters, you're more connected to them. Likewise, that moves me on to number three. If the Marines are playable in Verrucht, I would like to see Dempsey as one of those Marines. Now, Verrucht in the original, there is a character or a Marine that kind of sounds like Dempsey, but not really. But none of the characters really look like him. Now that the timeline's out, now that it confirms Dempsey is there, I do want to see that reflected in the game. And likewise, I'd like to see the other Marines, Smokey, John Banana, and the unnamed fourth Marine, get personalities and stuff. Number four, expand on Shinonuma's story a little. Now, since this has been remastered, and by the timeline, we know that Richtofen travelled there to get his diary. Now, I originally theorized that the Chronorium was in the Doctor's quarters, but now that the timeline's out, it says that he went back for his diary, and so it's fair to assume that that is his diary in that bookcase, that the laugh occurs. So while I don't want a full-on Easter egg quest, although I wouldn't be opposed to it, I just would like to see it expanded on, because if you go play Shinonuma and you listen to their quotes, it is very different. So I just would like to see a little bit more about that. Number five, and this is kind of a big one, Samantha voice consistency. In case you didn't know, in Moon, Richtofen swaps souls with Samantha, and Samantha becomes a playable character after the egg. Except her voice is of a German little girl, the same one you hear in Der Riese. However, we get to Origins and we get American Sam. She's bossing us around, telling us what to do, and this led to the confusion of it must be a different Sam. Why would she have an American, completely different voice? And some people thought that they were both the same Samantha, but just the voice thing didn't work. Well, the timeline actually confirmed that they actually are the same Samantha. And since we're getting Moon and Origins in this same Zombie Chronicles, pack, I would like them to kind of stick with one. Make them both German or make them both American. But, maybe it would be better in Moon if she was more American, or maybe German Sam would be less annoying in Origins, I guess. Likewise, the same thing applies to Brock and Gary. In case you didn't know, Brock and Gary, their voice actors got replaced in the Revelations, one of the radios. Hoping that they don't use those new voice actors, I hope they keep the original, because those were fine, so please do not replace them. This brings me on to number six, Sally in Shangri-La. In Revelations, we find out that there's a girl, Romero's assistant from Call of the Dead. She's not actually seen there, but it's explained she's Romero's assistant. She's wondering where they've all gone. She finds stuff about Shangri-La. She ends up going there, and she ends up getting caught in the eclipse. And then she's stuck with Brock and Gary, but not together with them. She sets up the bear trap that kills them in one of the time loops. So I would like Shangri-La to reflect that. I think the best thing would be if you were doing part of the Easter egg, or specifically the trap step, where you activate it outside the map. And as you're looking around, or as you activate that, you can see Sally in the background. Or you see hints of Sally, or you hear her voice. I'd like them to reflect that in this map, because technically she was there the whole time. Number seven, explain what happens to Ultimus after Moon. Now, Black Ops 2, Jimmy moved on to Victus, or the transit crew. Never really gave info about the original characters or Ultimus again. Likewise, Blundell with this timeline didn't say anything about Ultimus either. He just said oh, Moon happened, then didn't mention them again. He just mentions, Samantha. And so I just like in Moon, you know, even in a cipher, just to explain that, hey, you know, they died or something happened to them, you know, but I don't want it to be open-ended like, oh, and they were never heard from again, or, you know, Samantha in Richtofen's body, that's really the only thing. Maybe she killed them, maybe she didn't. It's like, come on, just give us closure there. Number 8, hints at buried Maxis in Origins. So the timeline shows that Maxis in Buried, the Maxis ending is canon. And so he's in power, he draws Samantha into Agatha. She doesn't like what she sees about him, you know, being corrupted by the Dark Ether. Anyway, so she goes to Origins and she's like, hey, help me, other dad, help me this version. Meanwhile, you know, buried Maxis, you know, you think he'd know about it, or you think he'd be there. And I was thinking maybe he's the reason why she's so standoffish, like she's kind of not offensive, but like she's just rude to ya, and you know, she's evil, and like she's got that different announcer voice. And like I said before, I know that she's been corrupted, but if she didn't like how her dad was, you know, that still seems to think that like there's still some good in her. So I would like them to just hint that buried Maxis is behind the scenes there, that Maxis is there. Because after Origins, when Maxis' drone, the one with the brain, goes there, Monty gives him a full body or whatever, and then he wipes buried Maxis from existence. He just literally deletes him, and I think that's the funniest thing ever. So, you know, I'd like them to, you know, do something with that. But yeah, just hint that buried Maxis is there, because that would give a greater cohesion between both, because Buried in Origins, the only connection was Samantha and Agatha, pretty much. Number 9, it's a pretty simple one. I'd like to see the Avenged Sevenfold music, you know, stay in it. I'd like them to keep the Avenged Sevenfold music. I don't know if like they have to renew a license or whatever, because, you know, they didn't do Mob or Call of the Dead. So same thing with Moon. Nightmare was a hidden song. I want to hope that they keep that in, but I want to hope they make it more accessible, because you could only do that with 2 players and doing like a set of steps based on luck. Like you had to wait for both excavators to come down. You know, I just make it like a little radio that we can activate, you know, put it on. I'll be fine with that. And, you know, as I said before, Origins without Shepherd of Fire is just criminal. Now the last thing, and I don't know if it's going to happen or not, is expanding and adding on to Revelations. And I don't mean like, oh, adding new shit. I guess I do in a way. So, you know, Blundell confirmed on JC's channel, he's like, oh yeah, I said the 18-month thing for Revelations because I couldn't say anything about Zombie Chronicles. So in a way, it kind of sounded like, you know, there's more to Revelations with this new Zombie Chronicles stuff. So I'm just wondering, like, if that kind of, we have to do something on those maps that will allow us to do something on Revelations or build on it, or expand the story or the ending or something like that. Like, I don't know, but, you know, I think it'd be interesting because it hasn't been 18 months since Revelations. It's still a fair while away. So, you know, it'll be interesting to see, like, if that actually happens or not. Not expecting it, but would be a cool little bonus. But yeah guys, those are the 10 things I would like to see in Zombie Chronicles. Ultimus characters, personalities for the Marines, Dempsey actually in Verrucht, expand on Shinonuma's story a little, Samantha's voice consistency, Sally in Shangri-La, explain what happens to Ultimus after Moon, hint at buried Maxis in Origins, Avenged Sevenfold music, and expand/add stuff to Revelations. There you go guys. What do you want to see in Zombie Chronicles though? Like, what's the one thing you hope is there? Let me know down below, and I'll catch you guys later. Cheers.